Hello and welcome to day 3 of Royal Ascot 2021, the Timeform and Spotting Life Best Bets preview. I'm Ben Linfoot, delighted to be joined by Kieran Clark from Timeform and Matt Brocklebank from Sporting Life. Hello, gentlemen. It's Gold Cup day. Exciting. Stradivarius going for a Yates, going for his 4th Gold Cup. And that's the first question on this video. Are you for or against Stradivarius, Kieran Clark?
Yeah, just to make you gents feel old, I remember coming on from secondary school to watch Yates, so that shows my youth. I think it's very, very hard to be against him, to be honest. There looks to be a bit of pace on, but if they go slow, he's got that turn of foot. And then last year he showed. One thing I always, not slagged him off for, but I always thought as he got that big rating in his locker, and then last year in that Gurning race, he went and ran to a Timeform rating of 130, and he's well clear on the ratings. He didn't need to be at his best on his reappearance. He ran a stone below that, but obviously they would have left a bit to work on. And there was excuses when he got beat here at the end of last season. That was at the end of a longish season, just 2 weeks after the Arc as well. And yeah, I mean, odds against is fair enough, isn't it, gents? Really, he should be odds on, really. Trushan, Ascot's avoided the rain, so connections of that one would have probably. But it rained all night. He's yet to race on good to firm ground, and subject to this probably will stay. But it's a class angle. Has he got that class edge that Stradivarius has? So for me, I'm definitely with him. Whether Matt has other ideas, we'll soon find out.
Yeah, well, the ground is the key thing, isn't it? I was quite keen on taking on Stradivarius when all those thunderstorms were forecast, and I thought, Subjectivist is a proper Tiafilo galloper. He might just be the one to dethrone the king, but good to firm. I'm not so sure. How about you, Matt?
Well, he is a good new challenger, isn't he? Subjectivist, and really a fascinating horse in many ways. I just think Matt Johnson knows precisely what he's got with him, and I think it is quite interesting that he's completely left him alone since going out and putting up that monster performance. I'm fortunate enough, Scoop, every month I get the Kingsley Clarion slaps down through the letterbox, and my wife puts her head in her hands, and I bury my head in it for a couple hours. And James Willoughby wrote at great length about that performance in the Gold Cup out there in Meydan from Subjectivist, the way that he was able to sustain this gallop right from the get-go. He barely lost any time just to reach that top cruising speed right at the start as well, and just kept galloping away. And I think when you read about someone like James euthanizing over I've said the wrong word there, but you know precisely what I mean about a performance like that, he's really got to be respected. I think I've stopped opposing Stradivarius long time ago from a betting point of view, and I think that win at Ascot, it was needed, wasn't it? I think it was needed in more than one way, to be perfectly honest, because when you look at that profile at the back end of last year, it did go wrong, didn't it? The experiment in the Arc, it went wrong, and it was the first time that he'd been beaten 3 times in a row in his whole career. So he needed it to get back on the winning trail, and I think he probably needed it physically as well. So he might not have been at his absolute best there, beating Ocean Wind by a length, but we know he turns it on. We know that Frankie turns it on in this race, and I'm struggling to look elsewhere, to be perfectly honest. I think there are better races to try and find an each-way angle.
And we will come on to those in a second or two. So I think we've all gone a little bit lukewarm on taking on Stradivarius as he bids to equal Yates's record of 4 Ascot Gold Cups. My best bet is Moving Time in the Hampton Court for Roger Varian. He's a horse who slammed the Queen's Vase winner Kamari by 4 lengths at Newmarket the last time we saw him. On the back of that, there's been a big market move, but I think he's a rapid improver that can take on the big talking horse Mahatheth and win the Hampton Court for Roger Varian. So he's my bet of the day. But gentlemen, what are your bets of the day? Kieran, we'll come to you first. What's your nap?
Well, I've just got a couple, but sticking with the Roger Varian theme, hopefully he has a good day, Scoop. So I've got 2 of his that I think could run big races. The first one of those is Nagano in that King George V handicap. Now, it's a horse that I became a big fan of when he won at Nottingham 2 starts ago. He overcame both inexperience and the run of the race. He saw that race out really thoroughly, and then he overturns Wood Ditton form with the runner-up at Newcastle last time. And again, he was really strong at the finish. I think this step up to a mile and a half is really going to suit him. He looks a really uncomplicated ride. He's drawn 2, and this race can be a bit rough. So hopefully he's quick from the gates to get that prominent position. Last place, he wants to be stuck on the inside. But yeah, I love how much he finds off the bridle. And whatever happens today, I think he's going to be a horse to follow throughout the season. And then the other one in the last Lord Campari, I think he will be really suited by his step back to 7 furlongs. He made a winning reappearance at Newbury last year, and he ran to a Timeform rating of 113 on just his second start. Now, not many horses do that, and I thought he could go all the way to the top at the time, and things didn't quite go his way at 3 years after that. He pulled too hard on his final start, and he didn't handle Newmarket in between. And I thought he ran all right in the Lock-in. He was a big price. He finished down the field, but again, he just did a bit too much too soon. And I think the drop back to 7 furlongs in a big field handicap's really going to suit. And it actually wouldn't surprise me if he ended up trying 6 furlongs eventually this season. I think he's sort of similar ilk to the stables Cape Byron. But I think a big field handicap is definitely going to suit him, and around 12 to 1. I thought he had a good chance.
Can we still get on Roger Varian top Royal Ascot trainer? We've got 3 of his winning today. Any more Varian horses for you, Matt?
Had a heck of a good time last year, didn't he? Well, no, I think if you're on the lookout for a shorty, I'd be opposing Moving Time. I thought Mahafford really should be taking the world of beating. There'll be some long faces in the William Haggas camp if he gets beat here, having pulled him out of the Derby. To be perfectly honest, I was expecting the Derby trip to test him. And while there was a fair bit of clamour for him to run over a mile and a half here in the other race, then I think the Hampton Court's the right move, despite the fact it is just a Group 3. I think I'd really like to see something special from him before they then chuck him into Group 1 company, potentially against older horses. But I don't think it's the day for getting stuck into anything, to be perfectly honest. I know we've talked up Stradivarius, probably should be odds on. I quite like Mahafford there, but Marshall Plan, I'm gonna take a swing for one scoop in the handicap King George V Stakes at 5:35 now. John and Thady Gosden, they were on the mark at the start of the week with a horse that was very easy to back in Amtiaz, and I think Marshall Plan, number 8 here, is definitely being overlooked. Now, obviously, the obvious sort of starting point is that First Light would appear to be the significant stable first string. Frankie Dettori rides much shorter in the betting, about 6 to 1, and does look quite promising. But the fact that they both go handicapping here off a mark of 90, I was actually finding it hard when you do a bit of digging into the collateral form, finding it hard to decide which one was the best handicap. So it's got to be Marshall Plan for me in terms of a bet at 33, 25 to 1. He just looks just quietly progressive. He's quite a sort of a big, striking son of Golden Horn. And I don't think running on the all-weather around Lingfield and Wolverhampton has particularly seen him in his best light, to be perfectly honest. And I just think he could really thrive over this stiff mile and a half. Little bit of rain overnight, but I think decent ground's going to suit him, being a son of Golden Horn, as I say. And he was quite workmanlike when he got the job done second time out at Wolves, but I was quite impressed with him last time. He kind of came there and sort of, he got the better of the other horse. He won the race once, and then a horse of Brian Mears called Mandoob came over the top, and Mandoob was having his racecourse debut that day, and he kind of thought, oh, that was a bit disappointing from Marshall Plan. But really, in hindsight, Mandoob, who was getting weight from Marshall Plan, has gone on since to win at Haydock, and Meehan is talking about going for the Bahrain Trophy with him. So he looks promising in himself, and I just think this sort of strand of form's been a little bit overlooked. So I'd love to see him ridden quite prominently, almost a bit like a Amtiaz ride at the start of the week. Rab Havlin should be able to get a good position from stall 8 in this race. I don't mind that slot at all. And if he's not sluggish from the stalls, I think he could run a really big race. Tongue Tie goes on for the first time, and he's had the 49-day break. So hopefully he's strengthened up and he's nice and fit for this on his comeback. So yeah, Marshall Plan for me in the King George V.
Lovely stuff. A couple there in the King George V handicap. Marshall Plan for Matt Nagano for Kieran. I took in Parachute as well. If you're having a combo trifecta, I think he's got a good chance out wide for Ed Walker. My best bet was Moving Time in the 305, and Kieran chucked in Lord Campari as well in the 610. So good luck with your best bets on day 3 of Royal Ascot, and we'll be back on Friday for day 4.